Well, the Lord has nothing to do but keep trying to be helpful. But the government shut down and the harm that's going to people. But there's also it would be a it's the time all the things intermixed in what's happening offer an opportunity to talk about what really is the central problem all the time. Um, Let's say more about the fact that people don't. One, much of our population is um, certainly not all of it, but the problem is this is the kind of thing that if you try to bring it up, or certainly bring it up in a university or graduate school, I don't know what you call it, but here's the thing. In addition to the fact that if someone were to recognize, like, wait, I think that they're playing out a political theater, but there must be something we don't know about why we can't have any health care. But number two is the other thing, and it was asked to me, it's the kind of thing smart people, as a younger guy, asked me when the issue of the national debt came up one earlier time, said, hey man, like, what, I understand, what is the debt? I mean, why do we just keep owing money? Like, in what way? Like, what? He asked someone to explain it to him. He'd asked it at college and didn't really get an answer. Like, or the person was talking over his head. Like, what is this? I mean, and now, like, if the issue of defaulting on the debt, like, but why is there so much debt? I mean, why do we keep running up our national debt? Okay. While this situation is so bad, like, it's a time we could talk about it a little more with limited awareness over here, but there's no awareness of it, and in most places it's not being talked about in the universities, and young people who try to raise it are actually considered dangerous and sent to psychiatrists. Not a joke. Okay. The same thing I said, that when we proposed healthcare. Other countries, they have healthcare, but if they would have the same problem if they proposed an infrastructure project or anything like that, anything of that kind of growth. Okay, the very fact that we proposed it, chances are foreign banks may have already started selling off our currency at that point to signal to us that we are not going to move to healthcare. If we started an infrastructure project, they would probably do the same thing, just as a signal that that's what's going to happen. The transnational sector will punish any government who behaves like what they apparently the word is irrationally. That is not in their interest. So that kind of growth that would depreciate the currency. So it happens when there's no limit on how much of our country's currency can be owned up, and we also don't have our own national bank and some kind of parallel currency like Abraham Lincoln had done with his greenback. Okay. But why? Okay, the debt itself, as I said, the most important thing to know is that a lot of political movements with regard to the debt in societies that we call late industrial, like industrializing, developing, what we used to call like the third world. Okay, right. There are political movements who care about what's happening there that are calling for that debt to be canceled. Okay, because the debt, the reason they have the debt is that there's no limit on how much of their economy and their currency international lenders and investors can buy up. And there's also no restrictions on moving the money in and out. So if a country would attempt to, stimulate its own economy for, then, or even if there's a small crisis in the country's economy, right, foreign investors who own up their currency or own up just start selling off their currency. They're punished, and the society keeps collapsing. The third world wouldn't really be the third world if they had some control over movement of money in and out, and how much of their economy could be owned, how much of their currency could be owned. Sadly, we have the same problem. So why do we have an ever spiraling debt? And like a lot of people see a younger person ask a beginner's question like, what is it? What is the debt? What do you mean? Why do we owe money? In what sense? Okay, that's like the kind of intelligent young person has. A lot of people just talk about the national debt. What we understand over here is it's related also to this issue of having lost control over our national economy. If we were, people know we don't export anything anymore. But even if certain kinds of jobs, certain kinds of manufacturing jobs shifted overseas, and someone were to say, well, it's really cheap labor over there, fine. But put that aside for a second. No, but manufacturing and a physical economy is part of what made that's good for the markets too. Why can't certainly there's new technologies, new kinds of things, new kinds of production. Why is production shut down? Okay, we're getting to about the debt with our limited awareness, but no one seems to have much awareness at all. Right. The problem is this: that kind of growth, like let's say science driver programs filtered to the community colleges into some kind of new kind of production, green-friendly technologies being built here domestically, good for all sectors of the economy. But that kind of growth depreciates the currency. It's not bad for us that it's that way. We also, we now if the currency depreciates, the international lenders and investors who own so much of our currency, right? That kind of growth, building a new manufacturing base with new green technologies, okay, that depreciates the currency. We will be essentially threatened with capital flight and then punished by it. They'll begin to those in the transnational sector will begin to sell off our currency, and if they do it enough, the economy will collapse. They would warn ahead of time by selling off some of it. Okay, so right, the reason what's the debt? Well, apparently, and I wish economists would talk about this, so it doesn't have to be a guy in a hotel. But right, there is this balance of payments where apparently, economists could explain it, but that the imports and exports, if they're not balanced, if you're importing exponentially more than you're exporting, or you're not exporting much of anything and just importing, the difference between it has to be made up for by borrowing. Persons like me have a limited awareness of it, but that's apparently the way it is. So if you really, and then when we start taking on the debt, it's a kind of balance of payments crisis. Imports and exports are so out of balance because we're not exporting anything and we're importing things, and we have to make up the difference. That's why we borrow money that's why the country borrows money from like China. The mechanics of it, or why it's this way, is let an economist explain it. That's the reality. Because we have no manufacturing and no physical economy, because this is recent, okay, this is recent, that a prejudice towards financial capital and the abandoning of any physical economy, okay, we're not exporting anything. Well, here's the thing. That's why there's so much. That's why the national debt keeps going up. Say, geez, if we started building like a new manufacturing base, green technologies for our new windmills and bridges and things, if we started doing that would resolve this debt situation. Why can't we do that? Right. Once again, the best when Obama says like we have shovel-ready projects, like you could be shoveling, dirt on a road or something, but they're not real. It's not a real push towards like infrastructure building and all that. Why? Right, because it's not his fault. So the fact of the matter is that kind of growth, new waves of production and manufacturing would depreciate the currency. International lenders and investors will sell off our currency, and the economy will collapse. We don't have control of our own economy, so we can't do that. The national debt keeps going up. That's our basic understanding of it here.